Kevin, do you live on a farm? Do you have any animals over there where you're at?
No, when I started at the co-op, that was my last thing of being on a farm. So
Oh, really? So what were
yeah,
you coming off of before you started off at the co-op?
I managed a 600 mama cow operation. So
So I'd say that's a few.
yeah,
What's it down in that area?
yeah, it's up in Madison. It was up in Madison County,
Okay.
right, right up north of Orange.
Angus cattle registered, or what were they?
They were commercial Angus, but they were pretty close to being registered.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a commercial herd with everything done other than registering them.
Yep.
All right, well, it's 7 o'clock, so I guess we need to go ahead and get started. Um, Hi, everyone. Kevin Powell. I'm Territory Feed Sales Manager for Orange Madison Cooperative. For those of you who do not know about Orange Madison, we are a member-owned cooperative with locations spread throughout Central Virginia and Orange, Madison, and Louisa. We have a petroleum distribution site in Charlottesville. We do everything from providing heating oil to off-road fuel in your home business. We also spread lime fertilizer in your fields and provide feed supplies for your large and small scale operations. If you got any questions about Orange Madison, feel free to email us. We'll have our email in the chat. So first of all, I would like to thank Purina Animal Nutrition for helping us put this on, and Cargill Animal Nutrition for putting this on. I also want to remind everybody to go ahead and mute your microphones so we don't get any feedback or background noise. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Nathan Holloway from Cargill Nutrition and let him go ahead and get started. Nathan.
Thank you, Kevin. There we go. Hey, everybody, I want to thank you all for joining, taking the time out of your day and joining us. I am Nathan Holloway. Like Kevin said, I work for Sunglo Show Feeds and Cargill Animal Nutrition. I've been raising and showing pigs ever since I can remember. We always had about 10, 15 show pig sows growing up, and we always showed cattle at the county fair as well. I love doing it. I got into it right out of college, went to Iowa State, and then came back 3 years ago and started in the position that I am. We are here to help you, Danielle and I both, whether it's Sunglo or Purina. I mean, we are here to help you. So these meetings aren't for us to sell product, but they are here to help you all be successful. I mean, we buy these projects and we take this endeavor, right, in order with like an end goal in mind. And we are here to help you reach that goal. So please, if you have any questions along the way, we've all been in your shoes. So please ask any questions you have. You know, some things that might seem just secondhand to us might be confusing to you. So please ask questions along the way, and we can kind of go from there. You can go to the next slide. So what I like to talk about is really how you all can be successful. I am a show feed guy through and through. I'm supposed to sell show feed. But at the end of the day, if we do not have a good animal, if we do not have good management, nutrition can never do its job. We have to do all the things right that we can control in order to let nutrition and let that animal really do its job. So to start with that is selection. We need to start with a good animal. We need to start with a good kind of base to our pyramid. So if you think of it kind of like a pyramid, selection's at the bottom, and that is the building blocks to our project. We need to start with the right age animal. So every single year at the county fair, there are animals that just do not make weight. And I do not think that should ever happen. The biggest reason is because these animals just simply aren't old enough when we buy them. We need to plan out, a year ahead of time, 6 months ahead of time, whenever we need to get these animals, we need to plan out average daily gain, what they need to be weighing at the end. So whether it's, 75 pounds for a goat or 140 for a lamb, 280 for a pig, and then 1,400 for a steer, right? We need to plan that out so that way we get the right age animal. Try and get my video up here. There we go. So with that being said, so we get the right age animal. That's number one. If we do not have the right age animal, that thing's not going to make weight and we're not going to be able to show it or sell it. Number two is health. We need to come in with a healthy animal. And that's kind of working with your local breeders, working with your local 4-H agents, extension agents, whatever it is. We need to find a healthy animal in order to start off on the right foot. If we get an animal that comes in, and it may have worms, or it's got a bum foot, or, maybe it didn't get fully castrated, right? We need to make sure we're starting off on the right foot and we're getting everything accomplished that we want to get accomplished. So find a healthy animal, it's walking around, it's perky, it's not coughing. And that's where it's really working with that breeder. A good breeder will have a very good just health protocol program and vaccination program for those animals. Just because a good breeder, they're going to want you to be as successful as they can, because that looks good upon themselves. So they're going to want to send you home with as good an animal as they can make. So with that being said, they're going to hopefully have a good vaccination program. Go to next slide. And then, so we kind of talked a little bit about this, but planning, know when your show is, plan out your average daily gain, know your species and breed. Within each species, there are different breeds that really feed like they're almost a different species. For example, Duroc hogs are going to grow a heck of a lot faster than any old landrace hog. So it's knowing what that species and breed wants to do. And again, it's working with that breeder. That breeder knows those animals better than anybody else out there. So talk to that breeder, try to figure out what they're going to do as far as gain, as far as their consumption, as far as what they should look like and when. That those breeders should know what's going on. Be able to read your animal. In this diagram down here, it's very outdated, but it just shows you that even in just pigs, right? I mean, you can get completely different looking animals that you got to feed completely different. I mean, there isn't a one feed fits all, because every animal grows different. Every animal is going to look different. So we need to be able to read that animal and be able to kind of adjust what we want to do with that animal. And that's where, if we get into talking about supplements, we have to really have a goal in mind when we talk about supplements. We do not just feed a supplement to feed it. We have to identify, do we want to put back shape in? Do we want to add flank? Do we want to add more rib shape? We need to know what we're trying to accomplish before we start feeding any of those supplements, because a lot of the times we can get those animals in the ditch and it can be difficult getting them out sometimes if we overdo it. And that kind of goes with, identify your animal's needs, right? Do they need to be split up? Do they need to be fed differently, right? So just understand that animal and how we need to kind of affect it differently. Go to next slide. So I pulled these. So there's a Facebook and Instagram account called Judging Pro, where I pulled these pictures from, and I recommend you go looking at them. They have some good stuff on there that just give helpful tips, weekly, just on what to be looking for. And I asked if I could use these, and they said yes. And I mean, I think this is a great just diagram of what you need to be looking for when you're, purchasing your animals or showing them, and just kind of understanding what we're looking for in these animals. So a lot of times, so you see these pictures. So we'll start from the back. Well, let me back up a second. So when we talk about selection, what you really want to be starting at, everybody looks at muscle, right? Muscle is flashy. It gets your attention, and that's what you're looking for. Well, if we don't start with a good base, just like we're our little pyramid, if we don't start with good footwork, that animal will never do well in the ring, no matter how much muscle it has. That animal needs to be sound structured. It needs to be flexible. It needs to get around like it's natural. My old judging coach told me out in Iowa State, one of the biggest things he said was, you just start from the ground up. With any building, you start from the ground up. These animals are no different. We need to start with a good base. They need to be flexible and move around. And when we're looking at these, we'll start from the back here. Those rear legs, that back arrow, it's always protruded pretty far out. That hock on those animals, no matter what species it is, it needs to be able to push out there and be flexible, because that inner leg needs to be able to push up and pretty much land right in place of what those front feet are picking up at. So we just need them to be as flexible as we can. We need them to be free moving, and what I call the ham-loin junction. So right up there where that ham comes into that hip and that loin hits that ham, it goes for all species. You need to see that free move in there. If you see much popping or moving around in there, that's not what we're looking for. And the same thing goes with the front. those animals need to be able to reach out in front of them and almost feel like they're grabbing. If you go to any shows, I would highly recommend you just listen to the judge. If you go to a good jackpot show and there's a good judge there, listen to them, because you're going to hear them talk about these animals, and then just try to look at them and try to see what you see along with that. Because a lot of times what's trendy right now is for those animals to be tall at the point of the shoulder, for them to be able to reach out with those front feet, grab, and almost kick back sawdust. They want to see them kicking out in front of them and really grabbing. Because what that's showing the judge is that they are flexible up front. They're showing that shoulder blade isn't too far forward. And you see that, I think, more in hogs and cattle than anything else, but sometimes those shoulder blades can be set too far forward, so too close to, I guess, the neck, and it just makes them tight up front. They are not flexible, and they are almost more shifty up front. So just be looking at that. The other thing to look for, and it's more so in hogs right now than anything else, and we've gotten a little bit away from it, but you got to be careful. Look straight behind them. Watch those hocks. So when I say hocks, it'd be like the knees of the rear legs. Make sure they're not bowing out. They don't look like they've been on a horse for the past 10 months, right? You want to make sure they are straight and not bowing out. If they're bowing out, especially as a baby pig, you got to be really, really careful. And we got to feed them completely different. So we just got to be careful with them. So it's just start with the ground up. You need a sound animal. Again, you want heavy muscle. I guess it kind of depends on what you're going for. You do not want a super heavy muscled animal at a super young age, because it's much more difficult to feed them that way. We want a very moderate, balanced animal that gets around well, because we can feed a lot of that into it, or with exercise, we can get a lot into it. So just kind of, when you're going and looking at these animals, talk with that breeder, have another set of eyes on them, do whatever you need to. Just be watching them and picking them out right. And that goes the same thing all throughout the growing process. So you need to be looking at hopefully you're working with them at least once a week, or if not every single day, a couple times a day. Just be watching them, seeing how they move, seeing how they change. Do we need to add more rib shape? Do we need to add more flank? So it's just watching them, notice how they're changing, and notice how kind of maybe we want to affect them. Again, please, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. Danielle and I both are here. So please, if you have questions, throw them in the chat. You can go to the next slide. So what do the top feeders do? And this kind of will lead right into what Danielle is going to talk about. They seek high quality nutrition. Sunglo is a great feed. Purina is a great feed. And all I'm going to tell you is that you need a quality show feed in order to do the job that we want to. These feeds are designed to make these animals look like show animals. If you get a cheaper feed, they are less dense, they are less high quality, so you're going to need to feed a lot more of it to do the same trick. A great example is I fed Sunglo ever since I can remember. And for my pigs, I knew that I didn't need to feed any more than 4.5, maybe 5 pounds a day to that pig in order to get the same 2 pound of gain that I wanted. A cheaper feed, you're going to feed upwards of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pounds a day to get 2 pound of gain. So they're a lot less efficient, and they do not put the muscle and fat on the way we want them to. These feeds have the right amino acid complex in them in order to build the muscle that we're looking for to get the look that we want. And they got the probiotics, ulcer protection, all that good stuff. And this is something else I touched on. Utilize your experts. We have a lot of resources available to us. You have Orange Madison Co-op, which is an incredible co-op down there in Virginia, who do an awesome job on the show feed side of things. And they have people in there that know what they're talking about and have been doing this all their life. You have us too. You got Danielle, you got me. We've been doing this a long, long time, and we've seen a lot of animals, and we know what works and what to look for. We are in the trenches, and we know what's going on within the trends right now. But then you have 4-H leaders, you have FFA advisors, breeders. There are so many resources available to you. I mean, I know when I was in your shoes right now, I really wish I would have reached out a lot more than what I did. I was always hesitant because I didn't want to ask like a dumb question or anything. But being in the shoes I am right now, I knew what you guys are going through. So there's no such thing as a dumb question. So please, the only crime you're doing is if you don't ask it, because then you don't get it answered and you might do something wrong, right? So please ask questions, utilize your resources, your experts, because there's a lot of us out there. And I mean, that just really leads right into management, right? We talked about selection. We need to start with a good base, a good animal. And after that, we got to do the things at home right. And that leads right into management. And I think, Daniela, you can kind of take over here. You're going to really hopefully hit home on this and take it off.
Well, thanks so much, Nathan. I'm sure going to try. So let me get my slide set up here real quick. Great. Thanks, Nathan. That was great. And I couldn't agree with you more. You'll actually see my next slide too, very similar to what you were saying, the quadrants of what makes the winning matrix, if you will. And really the definition of winning is different for everybody. I mean, you might be the first time showman or show young lady that just wants to get into the show ring with an animal and make it without major incident. And that's okay. If that's the goal and if that's the objective and it's your first time out, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And we are here to help support that effort just the same as we are for those that are a little more seasoned and are trying to get into the winning circle. So, but the quadrants are very similar to what Nathan indicated a minute ago, which is the better breeding, which he just talked about from a selection standpoint, getting a good relationship with a breeder, somebody that you trust, that will give you some candid feedback, and that could be a resource for you. I'm going to touch a little bit here on better management, and then we'll both touch on the feeding side of things as well, and better health. Nathan was nice enough to touch on that a little bit, just to make sure that everything you're doing obviously has the health in mind too. Hopefully not a lot of veterinarian involvement, but you need to know somebody you can call and talk to should something not quite go the way you're hoping. So the secrets of success, when do you begin working with these animals? Well, you know, we have a timeline, and this is kind of what that looks like. So you're out, you're buying your animal, and you kind of know, you should know when your actual show day is. So we have this bracket of time in between. So between the time you purchase to show day, and what do you do with that time, right? When do you start working with them? Well, I know I get a lot of phone calls. I can't speak for Nathan, but I'm sure he can identify with this as well. Where the arrow is right now is about when we get called. And, you know, oh my, what do I do now? You know, we're at this weight and we need to be at this weight. What do we do? So my request of you all is let's try to push the timetable up a little bit. So even before you buy the animal, I'm sure you, your family have talked about what you want to do, what your vision is, what your goal is for the year. So before you even buy the animal, have a plan in mind. How are you going to shelter the animal? Where are you going to put it? If you live on a farm, that's fantastic. Do you have family and friends that you can rely on to help with you with the project? Do you have the right mentorship to get established? So keep the timeline in mind. The sooner we start, the sooner we have the vision in mind, the better we can all execute, and you can use all those resources that Nathan mentioned, which would be more advantageous to you and the animal, quite frankly. So when we talk about management, part of it does come under the shelter umbrella, the environment that the animal is in. Keep in mind, you need to have some type of environment that is mostly draft-free, warm or cool. Obviously, depending on time of year, we're going to get the best of both. You're going to have some cold nights like tonight. And then as we get into July, August, obviously, it gets kind of toasty. So keep that in mind. And then as well as a dry environment. And we'll get into this a little bit deeper here in a minute too. But the better your environment is, the better your appearance of the animal is going to be. The less maintenance sometimes you need to keep up on the animal. But keeping the pens clean is not only proper stewardship of animals and proper shelter, but it also helps with keeping bacteria down, diseases, other infections. And obviously wash when needed. You know, if they got real dirty, make sure you're washing them and taking care of them.
Hey, Daniela, I'm going to interrupt you for one moment.
Sure.
Yep, I got it, Nathan. Your slides aren't coming up. They're still in the PowerPoint app, so to speak.
Well, that's fantastic. Let's see
so
here.
I think you just need to put them on slideshow.
I thought I was. All right, try that again.
No worries.
I'm like all going to town here. Can you see something now?
Just you.
Nope,
well,
just you.
That's not what we're looking for.
If you go back to the original chat window, and then just make sure you're sharing your content there.
All right. Let me know if you see something now.
Perfect.
Yeah, and then you it just needs to be in slideshow now. There you go. Perfect.
All right. Sorry about that, folks. IT is always fun. Anyway, so we were talking about environment, and that was kind of the slide I had here a minute ago. But what we want to talk about is a picture like this. I mean, this is great, right? Clean environment, nice clean bedding, fat and happy animal ready to go. Got a little heat lamp there in case it gets a little cool. But this environment is what we call kind of a safe, fat, happy environment where the animal's comfortable. They do their best. They're utilizing the nutrition the best. So every dollar you're putting into feed and management, the time you're putting in on management, the animal is going to use the most of it because they're in a good environment. Then naturally, as the elements change and it gets either hot out or it's still cold out, have your resources available. Talk to people if you're new to it, but having good size industrial type fans, heat lamps, blankets, whatever you may need for time of year to get these animals as comfortable as possible. Obviously, if they're really cold and frigid, they're burning off all the energy you're investing money in putting in them with the feed, and that's not what we're looking for. If you can keep the environment good so that they do and strive the best that they can, the feed will actually accelerate all the look that you want for these show animals. And to what Nathan said, the feeds are designed for show-specific animals so that you don't need to feed as much, which actually will save you some money in the long run as well. Another thing to think about is, everybody's gonna have a different style at home, different setup at home, but obviously direct sunlight can sometimes be a bit compromising. So make sure the animals have some shade, can get out of the direct sunlight. We're trying to avoid sunburn as well. So whatever your setup is and what you can do, nothing's wrong with jury rigging something up at home, but you want to make sure that they have some ability to get out of that direct sunlight and not get burned. I'm a real strong proponent about individual feeding. Group feeding, it's hard. You're always going to have that alpha bully that's going to boss everybody else around, and you can't really manage the exact diet you want the animal to get. And quite frankly, it's always going to be the bully that's the biggest, the heaviest, and then the little one on the totem pole, the lightest one, is never going to get what they really need. So by individualizing their feed, you can control a little bit what they're getting, and you can manage what they're getting. And the feed works. It will work differently on every animal. To what Nathan said with the different genetics, the different breeding, some are easy doers, some are not. So you got to feed them a little differently depending on what their makeup is and what you're trying to get done. You may have some you got to push a little bit. You may have some you got to hold. So obviously separating them out and being able to individually feed them is critical. So not everybody has access or has one at the farm, a scale, but naturally it's a big part of this part of the business. We need to know the progress we're having and that we're making with these animals. So if you don't have one, that's totally understandable. Connect with your 4-H group. There's some families sometimes that get together and do weigh-ins to kind of know and monitor the progress that you're making with that animal so we know where we are and how to manage them properly. Another piece of the umbrella under management is exercise. And, we need to treat these animals a bit like athletes. You want them to go into the show ring. You want them to dominate. You want them to win. Well, we have to condition them properly for that. So exercise, just like any athlete, it's going to build the muscle development. It's going to create that tone that you want. It allows you to get better control of the animal. As you're working with the animal, you're going to create that relationship with them, get a bond going, a little bit of trust. When you're at the show, this is the last place you want to start creating all this or working with the animal for the first time, because that's not going to go so well. That should be when you've kind of mastered working with that animal, know its ups and downs, and can read that animal a little bit. And it will obviously make you a better showman or show woman in the show ring because you've been working with the animal and you know how to manage them. And we alluded to this earlier. Between the exercise and other management and healthcare, that's the only way you're going to get the best out of the nutrition is if you have all these other implements, pieces of the puzzle in place. So talking about exercise, just going to show you a couple different examples of that. Some folks use treadmills. Not everybody's going to have that capability. I totally understand that, but there are folks that use those, any kind of exercisers. And then I've got folks that, actually build a little track and work the animals around the track. This is not to say that good down home hand walking really helps too, right? It helps not only the person, the youth that's showing these animals, but it works on the animal also. And honestly, when we talk about really showing, not only does the animal have to be conditioned, but you as the show person do too. If you're bracing up an animal or setting them up, it takes some energy. It takes some conditioning of your body to be able to show the animal at the best that you can. And so it's not just all about the animal, it's about you as well. Daily care, this seems pretty kind of 101, if you will, and I get that, but I wouldn't be doing due diligence to the topic if I didn't at least talk about it. But we talked about spending time with the project, taming the animal. You're getting these young animals, they don't know the ropes. You got to show them the ropes. You got to teach them how to walk properly and how to be shown. They go to a show and they see other people, they see other animals, there's loud noises, there's loudspeakers, things that they may have never been privy to before. They need to get used to that. So anything you can do at home to train them and build that trust with them sure is going to come in handy when you're walking into the show ring on show day. The exercise and showing we've talked about. With feeding, twice a day is best. The body can use the feedstuffs and the nutrition a whole lot better if you did a morning and evening feeding. So that is highly recommended. And some treats every now and then make it worth your while. Let it help you work with these animals. They sure like a treat, just like anybody. But know what works for your animal. So when you're in the show ring and need something just to get that little extra show out of them, you know how to do that. So from a feed standpoint and under the management umbrella again, we're talking about routine is great. Animals love routine. So if you can feed close to the same time every day, morning and evening, before school, or if you're I guess school's still at home for some folks, whenever you can fit that in, make sure you can try to do that as much of a routine as possible. Especially with pigs, monogastrics and stress and having an empty stomach can sometimes cause some ulcers. So make sure that you stay on that and keep managing that pretty closely. Any kind of feed changes you do, perhaps you realize maybe I'm not on the right product, maybe I need to switch a product. Let's do it slowly in a good management way. Otherwise, you've got kind of side effects like diarrhea. Nobody wants that. It's a mess. You're losing a lot of water out of the animal. They're not doing well. So they're not going to be at their best when they're going through that kind of transition if you don't do it slowly and monitor them. Goes without saying, if product is moldy or an insect infested, we don't want to feed that. Most of them don't want to necessarily eat that. But a day like earlier today where it was pouring out, you're going to the feed store, you're putting a couple bags of feed in the back of the truck, and it gets rained on. Some bags are a little more resilient and water resistant than others. But if you see some gray mold, probably need to be dumping that out. And keeping the feed away maybe from the bedding areas, it just keeps everything a little cleaner and healthier. Again, makes the animal get up, move around a little bit more, and then cleaning up after the animals daily. If there's some feed remnants left and it's all sloppy wet with saliva and there's flies in there, let's dump that out. Not the best idea for them to be eating that. A key take home is, if the animal isn't doing well on feed, our turnout at the end of the day is not going to be good. They're not going to grow properly. They're not going to mature correctly. They're not going to put on the gain that you want. And water plays a big part in that. If they don't have good access to water, they're actually not going to eat well, and they'll go off feed. So make sure they have enough feed. A famous clinician we work with, Kirk Steerwell, I'll never forget, in one of his clinics said, fat wins. You got to feed them to win. The smallest animal, the lightest animal is never in the winner's circle. So feed with the intent in mind of what you have as a vision in that winner's circle. Separate those animals. So again, you don't have the bully picking on the little one. So they all have a chance. Deworming obviously plays a big part in that as well. And we got to make sure they get the feed in there, not only for the development of the animal, but to also boost their immune system. As we start moving them around and traveling to different shows and events, you want their immune system to be up as strong as it can be. So water, it's critical. Again, one of those more basic things, but clean, fresh water. If there's bugs floating around in it and, gross things floating around and you wouldn't drink it, the animal doesn't need to be drinking that either. And they probably won't. So abundance of it. You want it kind of as more of a room temperature as you can in the elements, but you don't want it to be real hot and you don't want it to be ice cold. But remember, if they don't have enough water or access to water, they're not going to eat, and that's not going to be a good day for us. So as we plan for show and feeding for show, keep in mind, have that plan in mind as to how we're going to get there. Nothing works last minute. It's not a great day when we have last minute plans of having to change something. It's much easier on the animal. It's much better on you to do it over a gradual time. You feed with that end in mind. What do you want that animal to look like when you're going into the show ring? And you control what you show. You control the animal that you select. You have a choice in that. You work with your breeders, your mentors, whoever you want to work with. Back to what Nathan was talking about, how you select those animals. it's about the work you put into the animal. The more work you put in, the better the output will be. And then naturally the nutrition you employ, so that the nutrition can help you get the animal to where you want to be when you start walking into that show ring and hopefully take home the winner's circle, right? All these animals that we talk about in the show industry are herd type animals, so two do better than one. If you have the ability to get two lambs, absolutely. They just do better. Hand feeding, definitely more control over it than the self-feeding. Twice a day we talked about, separating we talked about, and feed enough feed. So kind of a take-home message as we wrap this piece up. And keep in mind in nutrition, it is judged by vision. You are being judged, the animal's being judged by how they appear. So we have to enhance that appearance, and this is where a show feed is different than some just commercial diets. So there are bells and whistles in these diets, and I know Nathan's going to go into that, and I'll go into it a little bit. But we are trying to feed these animals for visual performance as the primary goal. You want them to look the way you want them to, and present themselves in the show ring the way you want them to. So that wraps my management piece up. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and come back and have Nathan, I believe you're going to come in and talk a little bit about more products that are more specific for some folks, so they can feed better feeds to the show animals.
Yeah, and I thought while we're getting this up, I thought something. I like to think about it this way, and it was interesting. Daniela said it because it is really, really true. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to think about these animals not like it's a pasture steer that you pulled off, right? You almost got to think about them halfway like athletes, because they really are. I mean, they are the best at their position, right? They are the best animals that we can try to make as a hog or a steer or a goat or whatever it is. So we really need to try to feed them that way. We don't want to just throw them, any old regular diet to them. I mean, regular athletes, primetime athletes, they feed to themselves. They feed the right diets, and it's very, very, very particular on what they eat. And that's where we get into feed a little bit, and supplements more so than anything else. I mean, we need to know what we're trying to accomplish with it, and we need to feed them accordingly. So you can go ahead, next slide. And Danielle and I both, we don't want to necessarily bore you with what we have here. So if you have questions, please ask. But I mean, I'll make a quick kind of run through complete feeds. Swine, we have 18G and 16G. It is an 18% protein ground feed or meal feed, 16% protein ground or meal feed. And those weights next to them, they are very, very broad spectrum. They are not finite by any means. It's not you do this and it's the way to do it. You need to be able to read those animals and know how to feed them. And the reason we feed different proteins for those pigs, I mean, those monogastrics, I mean, because they put on muscle and fat really, really different than I think the other animals. And we can really, really change how they look just simply off of changing the protein of that feed. So general rule of thumb is if that animal needs fat, we will feed it a lower protein feed. So if you're looking at that pig at 150 pounds and it needs fat cover, we're going to feed it 16G. On the other side of the spectrum, if we have a big fat, red, barrow who's at 150 pounds and he is already fat, we keep him on a higher protein 18G, just because if we lower that protein, it's going to burn less fat, and he's going to put on, it's going to burn less fat, but he's going to put more on even. And so that's when you get these animals, just look at them. If we have a really hard looking pig, gilt more specifically, probably, that needs to put on fat cover, that looks like she's just straight lean muscle, we're going to feed her a lower protein feed. Cattle, we have, and for cattle, lambs, and goats, we have our complete feed. So Showcat BVT, Grow and Show for goat and lamb. They are just really good all-around feeds that are going to get the job done that we want to. Honestly, with the trends that we've seen in the market, we kind of built these feeds to be really good base feeds, but to where they don't have so much in them that when we add supplements, it necessarily messes them up. So with the kind of the way we're feeding, especially lambs and goats anymore, we want just to make a good base on those animals and then add supplements in from there to really tweak how we look. Now, full body's a little different, though. I think full body, it's really, really exciting, and we finally have it out here in the East, and we've had a lot of good success with it. It's just for calves. Well, cattle. We feed it if we want to add rib shape and flank to them. So it's a fully fortified feed, so we can feed nothing but full body, but it also has cob in it, and it's going to help add flank to them. So we can feed it as a supplement if we need rib shape and flank, or we can feed it as a complete feed. We feed it mainly to heifers as a complete feed. Like if we're feeding nothing but full body, it'll be much more targeted at heifers, because the way we're growing them now, we don't want them to get too fat. So we're going to get them up to 800-900 pounds, and then we're just going to maintain. We're going to slow them down, because they are not picking fat heifers anymore the way they used to. 5-10 years ago, I would have told you, make that thing as fat as you can, but they're not picking them like that anymore. We want them to be clean, fresh fronted. We don't want a big brisket on them, and we definitely do not want too much flank in them. And when I say flank, I mean belly. So up there around that udder, we do not want to see much of that in there. But we need them big ribbed, we need them big and round, and we need a big kind of swoop belly on them. And that's where we feed full body. It's a 26% fiber. It's got that cob to really help that gut. So it's going to blow out that rib shape and add the flank that we're looking for. You get a next slide. And supplements. So the supplements, and this goes for any show feed company that you're working for. I touched on it briefly, and it certainly helps to touch on it again. We do not feed a supplement just to feed a supplement. We feed a supplement with an end goal in mind, because we can mess up animals if we do way too much with supplements. One of those being a great proponent of that is Explode or Paline. Explode is the Sunglo Paline supplement that we like to use. It has extra nutrition in it to help that Paline response. And we only feed that at like the 9-gram level. So this is strictly for pigs. It is only for pigs. And the only time we feed it is the last 14 to 21 days leading up to the show. If we feed that really any more than that, we can really get into the ditch and mess up those animals. And let me take a quick step back. We only feed Paline to pigs that are structurally sound. If that pig does not walk right, do not feed it Paline. The reason being is if we feed Paline for too long, too hard, it can mess them up. It can make them stiff, jointed, and just make them not look good. But what it'll do, and this is why I use it, I think, on every single one of my hogs I ever raised, it will add muscle shape to them. It will define them. It'll make them pop unlike anything else out there. There is not a product out there that's like Paline. And now every company has some sort of Paline. I know Purina does. That is an Elanco product, but ours is just from Explode with that extra nutrition, so it's not concentrated. So what I'll tell you is, if we want to add some muscle shape and some definition to them, we're going to feed Explode really the last 14 days. It works really, really fast. You're going to see results in 3 to 5 days, but it really takes 14 to really get to where you really want them. But just really, really watch them. If you see those animals start to stiffen up a little bit, so when I say that, like they're walking around a little less flexible, just take them off of it. I have never messed up a pig on Paline, but that's because I'm watching them. So just really watch how their flexibility is, and if they start getting stiff, take them off of it. Sumo, it's just a 70% dry fat supplement. It's a white fat. If you need fat cover added to those animals, feed them Sumo. And it's not just for swine. I know it says it, but I've fed a lot of goats and lambs Sumo just to add some fat cover to them. Game On. This is the coolest product I think we have, and there is nothing else out there that's like it. It will put a top shape in an animal unlike anything you've seen. It's a protein and fat supplement combined, where it's not gonna add muscle, but it'll make it look like it adds muscle. So if you think about what I call the ham-loin junction on a pig, well, like we talked about earlier, where that loin and that leg meet up, or where that hip is, there's always a little bit of a crease right there, right? Where if you could just fill that in, that top would just really pop. It'd just be a big flat top on it. Well, that's where Game On comes in. It only attacks that upper third of that animal, and it'll put a big fresh top in them. Your hogs, they suck it down. They love the stuff. And I'm going to be completely honest here. Goats and lambs, it's about 50-50 whether they'll eat it. The guys that are really doing it are just they're going to drench it. Now, if you've never drenched before, be very, very careful, have somebody that's done it before and knows what they're doing teach you how to do it. Don't just do it on a whim. But Game On is awesome. I love this stuff. And we really look at that last 30 days. S'more fill, it's a filler. It's a show day filler. It's not going to do anything permanent. It's got little tiny marshmallows that really taste good. That's why it's called S'more fill. It's got oats in it and some ground up meal grains in it. It's just a really appetizing filler. We'll feed that day off show to just get them full. The two most important things when you get to the fair are, one, getting them to drink, but two, getting them to eat. And that's where we need some sort of, sorry, my dog's chomping on a bone down here. That's where we need some sort of appetizing filler, like S'more filler to the fullest. Purina has a couple that just, they'll eat and they'll eat well and it'll suck up water and make them look full down in that flank. There's nothing worse than getting in that ring. That animal hasn't eaten or drank and it's just sucked up in its belly and it just doesn't look anything like it did 3 days ago at home, right? So anything we can do to make sure those animals eat and get filled up. For sure, it's an electrolyte. I think electrolytes are the least utilized supplement on the East Coast, and I don't know why. It just super hydrates those animals, and when that happens, you super hydrate those muscles, which add definition to those muscles because they're popping a little bit more. So we need to feed an electrolyte just to add more muscle pop to them, a little bit definition, because how many times you've been in the ring and you've been a hair away from, first place or champion or reserve, whatever it was. Well, that's where electrolytes can help you get to that little bit. You're not going to see drastic change, but it'll be just enough to see a little bit of a difference. The other thing about it is electrolytes really mask that water. When you get to the fair, a lot of times it's chlorine water, and if you can't bring in your own water, you got to use that. And it just tastes different. It just, even out of those filters, they taste different. They're not used to it. They don't like it, and they can go off of water for no reason. So we'll use this for sure and mix it in with the water and just to kind of mask that chlorine taste. Really, you want to start that, say, about a week before to get them used to it and almost build up a craving for it. And then to the fullest, it's just that bale right there. It's got cob in it. It's got molasses, alfalfa, orchard grass, all that good stuff. It's just a super, super palatable filler that we'll use day of show. So honestly, for my swine, for my hogs, I'm using S'more fill day of. I only take S'more fill to the show, if I'm being honest. If it's a jackpot show or something, I'm just taking S'more fill. I'm not taking anything else. For my ruminants, though, I'm taking nothing but to the fullest. I love that stuff. Full tank, it's a pelleted beet pulp filler. The unique part about full tank, it's got citrus in it too, because some of those pelleted beet pulp supplements, they can add too much cover up front on that animal, right in behind that shoulder, which we don't want. So the citrus pulp that's in this, as well as the beet pulp, it helps just really focus on that upper mid-rib up. So full tank, you can feed it the whole way through the growth process. For ruminants, we're trying to add rib shape up top. For hogs, the only reason we feed full tank is if we need to hold them. So if we have a pig that's 250 pounds and we're 30 days out, we need to slow that pig down, and we'll feed full tank to that animal as a supplement. We still need to feed complete feed, but we'll feed it as a supplement because nutrition-wise, it does nothing for that pig. It'll just go in there, suck up water, and take up space. But these are all really good supplements. There's a lot that we have online at sunglowfeeds.com or our YouTube page, a lot of 60 seconds or learn how-tos. But these are the ones that Orange Madison has good access to. Sunglo has way more supplements than you can ever count, but these are really the only ones that you need, and these are the ones Orange Madison has access to, and these are the ones we can really do a lot with. So at the end of the day, we need to know what we want to change, and we need to know how we're going to do it, and then just go from there. And some of that is absolutely using some Purina supplements, because some of these simply don't do what some of those do. So it's working with Danielle and I both to try to figure out to accomplish the same thing. But Danielle, I am done pushing my junk. We'll go to you now.
Thanks, Nathan. But I agree with your comment kind of earlier that we're here to help. We're here for education and assistance where we can. Yes, we both work for feed companies, and I think truly what we're trying to do is just give you options available as shoppers and as animal owners. Nathan's products are great. Mine are great. Where can we help you target your animal and where you need to go? Next slide, please. So I primarily put this slide up here. We've got quite a few different feeds depending by species group. We do have a new look for the bags. Let me tell you, big excitement internally in the company for the new look. It's been needed, quite frankly. But you can see here a little bit, I've just listed all the products out. I am not going through all these products. I will tell you there are pelleted versions, there's textured versions. Obviously, everybody has their options there. Nathan, I can't compete with the dog now.
Sorry, he's out of here.
But we got pelleted, we got textured feeds. We even have concentrates if you so chose to make your own diet at the house or at the farm and have capabilities to do that. We do like and think a lot of our already pre-manufactured, I guess, products where we know and have done the research and done all the proper ratios are in the diets, those kinds of things. But you can see here, beef cattle, show cattle feeds. We got show pigs, we got show lamb, show goat. Some can be interchanged. There's one product in there, the EXP15. You could actually feed to lamb and goat if you just wanted one product. But they all have different targeted things that they do. And again, without taking a lot of time, those are some of the options. But I wanted to mention the new look. So if you do see it, nothing happened. It's just a facelift, if you will. Part of a good marketing program is to keep things fresh and present. So next slide, please. So what I thought I'd do is just highlight some of the supplements that we also offer, again, in tandem with what Nathan said. These are truly used for specific tweaking you're trying to do in a certain animal of yours. If you're on a good show feed and they're doing well, you may not need a supplement. Save some money, put that elsewhere, college fund, whatever. But here are some options for you. These two in particular are for extra conditioning, bloom. The top one, the Power Fuel, has been around for quite a while. It's an extruded nugget. We cooked the fat into it. The heavyweight is a meal or a powder, if you will, can be mixed with water to make a milkshake. 90% fat content on that one. So just depending on where you are in the spectrum that we talked about, the time management from purchase date to show date, one can work a little faster, one's a little longer enduring type product, depending on what we're trying to get done. Next slide, please. The next one, and I will say, most all these supplements are crossover all species groups. I'll indicate if they are specific to just swine. We have a couple that are more specific to just hogs, but most all of these can be fed to all species groups, so that does make life a little easier. Or if you've had very good success with them, let's say on the sheep side of things, and now you're going into goats, you can marry that knowledge and experience level of the products to the other species as well. Champion Drive is our second longest product that we've had around. A good, nice, high protein product, helps build and develop muscle, extra tone if you're trying to get extra definition out of the muscle. Again, nice product, pelleted product. The product below that is the Alleviate. This is one of our newer products. It's a gastric upset product, mostly used on the swine side. Can be used for all species though. We've actually incorporated it into some of our show pig diets. As you get a little higher up in the numbers for those. But fact of the matter is when you start hauling them to shows and events, there's a lot more stimuli happening. They get a lot more stressed. The last thing we want is for them to have gastric upset and either just not eat or just not do well. That's not why we're doing all this, right? You're going to the show to do well, to show at your best. So this could help with that. Next slide, please. These are two of our fill products. They work a little differently. I do have folks that feed both of them if need be. The depth charge has been around a little longer. Nice pelleted product. If you are using currently a bee pulp to try to get that fill look, this product will do a better job for you. It actually will swell up 2 to 3 times what the bee pulp will do. Nathan indicated a little earlier with one of his products, same kind of concept, but it can help fill that animal up some. What I will tell you with this is a word of caution. Please have water ready to go for that animal. Once this has been digested, they are going to look for some water, and we want to make sure they have access to it, because that's the whole point of this product. You want it to swell up and get large. That is how this product works. So we got to give them the water access to make sure they have what they need. The Ultra Full is actually a little bit of a lower gut fill product, a little bit more targeted there, kind of lower flank fill. And we've had some success with that one. That is a little bit of a newer product for us, but both have done well. And like I said, both are fill products, just depending on where exactly you're trying to target. Next slide. So if you've got some animals that are carrying a little extra fat deposits, especially maybe in the front end, you're trying to clean up the jowl or have them look a little more feminine, here are two products that could assist with that, the Fitter 35, the Fitter 52. Fitter 52, obviously, the numbers indicating the protein level. That one is a more fast-acting type fat burner, if you will. Needs to be used cautiously and in a good management side of things. The Fitter 35 is a little bit slower acting, along with a little bit longer time frame. Again, going back to our timeline, how many days do we have? How many weeks do we have to help create the animal that we need, or where we need to tweak the animal? But again, both products do very well. Different kind of targets a little bit, but both would consider what we call fat burning type products to clean them up a little bit. Next slide. So here are two that I will say are pig related. They are only designed for pigs. Our Power Fill product, really the place for a Power Fill product would be for a holding type ration for pigs. 3 pounds a day of it holds it to 1 pound a gain, does very well. But if you need something where you need to hold that ration or hold that animal back a little bit because they're just gaining weight too quickly, Power Fill might be an answer for you, again, on swine only. Nathan did a real nice job explaining Paline and kind of products that have the Paline, so I won't spend any time on that in lieu of this evening's time frame, but we have a version of that as well. Next slide. Two of our newest products are a fly control product. It's basically a feed-through fly preventative. It's a larvicide. No need to worry. It doesn't actually go into the animal. The animal is just the vehicle for this product to be ingested and defecated out, and that's where the product actually does its job. It's in the manure. So as the female fly comes, lays her eggs, this product, basically the Claire fly that's in it, will be a larvicide and doesn't let the larva hatch to produce more flies. And we're all about no flies, right? Or less flies if we can. But this is a newer supplement for us that's been put on the market, so we're excited about that. The Golden Ticket supplement, also new. It's an extruded nugget. Kind of the best of both worlds. If you are fond of Power Fuel and you're fond of Champion Drive, this product kind of merges the two together. So it's a very high quality protein, high calorie formula, has a lot of energy in it. But if you're trying to marry the two together, if you have some experience with our products, specifically those two, this would be one to look for here as you go into your show season. Next slide. This one, if you have interest in this particular slide or pamphlet, I could definitely hook up with you offline. I think this does a nice job of just showing a little bit where the products help, because obviously we do this every day. We know where the products are best suited. But as you hear all the information, you're like, now what did that thing do? Specifically, this one kind of summarizes a little bit as to where the target is for some of these products. Again, I would say, find somebody that knows more about these products, Nathan, myself, so we can help you target a little bit, because again, we're not trying to spend money just to spend money on supplements or add more supplements to the diet. If we can tweak something or we need to tweak something, let's use a supplement in the proper manner to do that. Next slide. I thought I would just wrap it up, just in case you're not aware. On our website, purinamills.com, we do have a honor roll kind of campaign, if you will, kind of like in school. If you do well, you get some prizes or you get good grades. So ours is called the honor roll. If you've had success on a local, state, national level, there are prizes you can win. We're really excited about it. We've had many good young kids have a lot of fun, have a lot of success. And enjoy the prizes. They're not all, just brushes and stuff like that. There's some really cool ones in there too, to make it a little more fun. But all that information is on purinamills.com. I didn't want to take a lot of time, but just let you know it is out there for those that are interested. And you can, if you are either one of our feed consumers or our supplement consumers, both are eligible. Or if you do both, you can actually win twice. So kind of a fun deal to venture into. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Kevin. I appreciate the time. And Kevin, I know you've got some closing comments and a little bit more information about Orange Madison Co-op.
Thank you, Danielle. Go ahead and put the slide up with the, yeah, there we go. I just wanted to discuss when we order feeds. I mean, last year, as most of you know, was definitely a different show season or a lack of show season. So I just want to give you all an idea of when the feeds actually come into our stores. So Cargill and Sunglo feeds, we order every Wednesday and they'll come into the store the following Monday. Our Sunglo supplements we order weekly. So if I order them today, they would come in the following Friday. Our Purina feeds we order Thursday and they will come in on the following Wednesday to our Orange and Madison location. Our Louisa location, we order every other week on the Purina, but we can add, if you're in Louisa and you need something on that off week, just let us know. We can add it to one of the other stores and have it moved down. Show Right, which is the Hubbard feed we haven't discussed, we order that every other week. That's shipped into our Madison location and we disperse it from there. Any feed that we have in one location can be moved to another location. We have trucks that run pretty much every day or so from location to location. I guess the other thing I want to talk about is Orange Madison does have a show program. The deadline for that was March the 31st. It's a pretty good discount involved with that. I am guessing that if you haven't filled out an application and you would like to, if that application happens to find its way into our office in the next week or so, I think we could slide that application on into the program. So just if you have need any information on that, just let us know. One thing I want to do right quick, which we haven't done before, if you are an Orange Madison employee, would you mind unmuting? And if you're in a position where you can do video, show video, I'd like you to introduce yourself so we can start putting some faces and names to some of our employees. Don't make me call you out.
Can you hear me, Kevin? I can start it off.
Oh. Are you talking to me or Serena?
Well, I see Avery's on there. I also see some Jason Carpenter fellows on here too. So if y'all want to introduce yourselves just so we know and tell what you are, what you do.
My name's Avery Ligon. I am the equine and small ruminant specialist with Orange Madison. So if y'all have any questions, I work closely with Kevin, and y'all can get my information either from him or through the co-op.
Jason Carpenter, can you hear us?
Hey, Kevin. Everybody, this is Jason Carpenter. I'm the agronomy sales manager with Orange Madison Co-op. I also work closely with Kevin in feed and mineral sales. So any questions, I'd be glad to help answer as well.
Serena, you could introduce yourself too.
Am I unmuted? I think I hit unmute, but I'm sharing my screen also. Can you hear
we can
me?
hear you. Yep,
okay.
We can hear you.
So I'm Serena Humphrey. I'm the marketing and communications specialist. I am actually the one that inputs your show program applications and everything. So if you guys have any questions about that, feel free to email me, message me after this, whatever. And you can see our website at the bottom of your screen, the orangemadisoncoop.com. And if you scroll to the bottom of that website, you can contact us through the website, and I get those emails as well. So if you're unsure of somebody's email address, you can just contact us through there, and that's a pretty simple way. We also have the Facebook page, and you can message us on there, and I get those messages as well. So there are a bunch of avenues that you can take to reach out to us, and I get your questions to the right person. So, yep, that's what I do.
So do we have any questions?
Yeah, I had one sent to me, and Daniela, since you handle management, I'll send it off to you. When you feed, do you full feed twice a day, 3 times a day, or what do you like to do? What do you recommend?
Well, at minimum, preferably twice a day at minimum. The animal just uses the nutrients better, the feed stuff's better. Imagine it, one big meal a day. If you're forcing it all in there, it's only going to be used so well by the system, and that's just the digestive system. So more feedings, even better. It just a lot of times management doesn't allow that. School happens, life. But I'd say at least 2. What do you think?
Yeah, honestly, that's what I usually say too. I mean, and like you touched on too, right? I mean, if you can keep the same time every single day, 7 in the morning, 7 in the evening, right when it's cool out. That's what I say too. Because I mean, just like you said, then we can control their intake. We know what they're actually eating. That's where those self feeders are a real pain because you don't really know how much they're eating. You put in a bag yesterday and you put in a bag in 3 days, but you don't know which one's eating it, right? So yeah, I completely agree. Jason, I know you got some animals over there, I assume. I mean, what kind of questions have come up with you all? Anything?
Well, I've got a question kind of for both of you. Since what things can we do? I mean, money doesn't grow on trees, as we know. So, what things can we do to try to keep costs down as far as management and that type of thing?
I guess I can go ahead. I guess to start is you don't need to go spend a potload of money on an animal. You can find a really high quality animal for a good price. It's just knowing kind of where to look and talking with that breeder. So it's one, starting with the animal. You gotta, I guess, before you even go buy an animal, you gotta understand what your budget is and know where feed fits in and where that animal fits in, and figure out how you get that animal, get everything done. The second thing is just buying a good feed. These feeds were designed to be complete feeds and to be efficient quality feeds. If we overfeed them, just like I talked about, if we feed 8 pounds of the Sunglo 18G, most of it's getting wasted. So let's just feed at the right level so that way they're not overeating. But then at the same time, we don't have to feed more of, say, like a cheaper feed to get the same result. So again, they're complete feeds. They really don't need supplements. We only introduce supplements if we want to change something. So just finding a good animal that you don't have to break the bank on and letting the complete feed do its job. That's what I would say.
I would agree too. I mean, we've all worked with customers that maybe have not bought the most expensive animal in the world and turned out to do just fine. So, and had much success. But it's how much work you're willing to put in it, right? That's at the end of the day. Just to your point too, I've worked with clients that have decided they're going to go with more of an all stock type product, and there's a place for all stock. Don't get me wrong. But if you're going in the show ring with the intent of trying to win, we need to feed that athlete. I'll refer to it back to as an athlete. To set them up for success to be able to win. And I would agree with you. If they're on a better diet, we feed less. Believe it or not, if you actually put pencil to paper, you actually net out ahead because you may not need supplements. I think the take home with both our sessions on supplements is only use them if you need them. They're there for you. They're available. You have options, which is great. But if you don't need them and you're on a good diet just as is, go roll with it. I mean, that's the intent.
We do have one question concerning discounts, and I can address that. I mean, the Orange Madison Show program, if you sign up for it, there's a 10% discount on show feeds, and both Purina and Sunglo show feeds fall into that category, plus a few other ones. So, yes, there are some discounts available.
Yeah, just like Daniela said, I mean, Sunglo is the same way. If you have success at your county or state or national fair, there are awards programs with that as well. So you should follow up with that.
I guess the other thing I want to mention, our show program, once you sign up, it goes from the day you sign up till December 31st. So that's a year program.
So a lot of county fairs are coming up, and then the state fairs in first week or last week of September or something like that. So that's a good long time.
So I think we got another question coming up.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say too, off of Daniela's point about exercise with those lambs and goats, we talked about Paline for hogs if we wanted to add muscle, but exercise is the biggest key with those lambs and goats. And just like she said, I mean, you can save money that way because the more you exercise them, the better off they're going to be. That's how you can really add some muscle and shape to them. Is just exercise. And again, don't do it in the hottest time of the day. Do it in the morning and evening. Rinse them afterwards. Work their hair. Do what you need to. But
For everybody's sake, the handler too.
yes, exactly. Exactly.
And guess what? Exercising doesn't cost money.
It's free.
I got two questions. The first one concerning a discount. Yes, we're working on fixing the problem, so we should have that taken care of. Next one's, how do you order show right feed through the store or directly with Kevin? You can order it directly with me, or you can tell your local store which product you want, and they will get that information to me, and I can get it ordered. We have any other questions? As Serena said earlier, please feel free if you've got questions to reach out to us. We'll try to get you to the right person. And I want to thank Purina and Cargill, Nathan, and Daniela for being here tonight and helping us with this. And I hope everybody has a good night, and thank you.
Thank you all.
Madison. Good night, everybody.
See ya.